As many of you already know, I love the B&M Surf Coaster. So much so that I've made a whopping 7 prediction videos about it. So when I heard that rumored plans for the B&M Surf Coaster had been leaked, I was extremely thrilled. If you've seen any of my previous videos, you may recall that I predicted that the surf coaster would be B&M's take on a next generation launch coaster, something similar to a Mach or a next generation Vekoma. And lo and behold, what was released recently, well, something that looks very similar to what I predicted. However, let me just say that the leaked plans look interesting to say the least. From the plans, the ride is ultimately going to be very similar to Icebreaker and only has one launch and a single inversion. To put it frankly, a lot of coaster enthusiasts were expecting something different, something better, something much more thrilling, and something unique to Seaworld Orlando. So, is there something missing? Are we not looking at the project the right way, and is it still happening? In this video, we're going to dive deep into this new revelation so we can discover more about the attraction than meets the eye. And we can add another gigantic piece to the B&M Surf Coaster puzzle, while ultimately discussing if the B&M Surf Coaster is going to be a success or more of a disappointment. I'm sure many of you are already aware, but the plans for this coaster were released by BGWFans, one of the greatest websites for coaster news, speculation, and rumors. I encourage all of you to read their amazing breakdown of this attraction on their website. First off, the plans for this coaster could technically change, but here's what we have now. The ride will feature a single launch that also includes a launched airtime hill, kind of like Copperhead Strike has. The ride also has many bank turnarounds, a single inversion which is a corkscrew, and some airtime scattered around the ride. And let's just say that this layout is pretty non-original when talking about launch coasters. I mean, it's pretty standard. Honestly, I know a lot of people are going to be very disappointed about this, but for me, it wasn't too different from what this channel was expecting and predicting. Considering the fact that this is B&M's first new coaster type in a while, I wasn't expecting anything crazy. Now, you may have noticed that I didn't say anything about the trains or the train design, and that is because we don't know that much about them. And honestly, this is the most important part of the ride. This could make it or break it, and here's what I mean. There is a strong possibility that this is all it seems to be, a pretty standard launch coaster. But there's also a chance that this could literally be a surf coaster, as in a stand-up coaster, or more specifically, a next-generation stand-up coaster. We know that B&M is working on both a next-generation stand-up coaster and a dedicated launch coaster. So in theory, it could be either one of them. So which one is it? Well, I'll tell you in a second, but for now, let's just play around. Why not both? Let me explain. B&M looks to be taking a lot of inspiration from companies like Mach Rides. And what have Mach been doing lately? Well, they've been doing something called a two-type train. A two-type train is where they've been merging 2 different coaster cars onto a single train. We've seen them put backwards-facing seats on some of their coasters, as well as them putting a spinning car behind the regular seats on some of their newest launch coasters. I know this is a crazy theory, but could B&M have this coaster be both a stand-up coaster and a regular launch coaster at the same time? It's probably not likely, but I wouldn't rule it out completely. I do think that it is possible for the last car on this regular coaster train to be a stand-up car. This would provide a completely different ride experience. Or maybe they could go a step further and make half the train a stand-up train and the other half regular. But who knows? I don't know how plausible this is, but to me it solves all the problems that enthusiasts have been bringing up. It provides a solution for those who hate stand-up coasters, but also for the daredevils that want to try it out. This idea isn't likely happening, but I would be shocked if B&M hasn't at least thought of the idea. So if my crazy unlikely double car theory doesn't happen, I honestly don't know which train configuration it will end up being. On the one hand, a next generation stand-up coaster sounds kinda cool, but it seems crazy. It seems crazy that such a well-rounded park like Seaworld Orlando would take a giant risk. What if this ride gets low ridership? What if it isn't well received? I guess we'll have to wait and see what they actually end up going for. That is, if that project happens altogether. Now, there's still a chance that this project could be cancelled, but now there are still too many unknowns. If I had to guess, I'd say that it's definitely still happening, but we shouldn't be completely shocked if COVID completely killed the ride off. But for the rest of this video, we're going to assume that it's actually happening. So if the ride is not a next generation stand-up coaster and it's merely just a launch coaster, would it still be well received at Seaworld Orlando? The answer is likely yes. From the coaster's location, it will likely become the park's new icon, and I definitely think it will become very popular. Even though it isn't a completely unique attraction at Seaworld Orlando, if it's just a launch coaster, I bet it will become the third most popular ride at Seaworld Orlando. I definitely think this new attraction would be more popular than Kraken and Icebreaker. On the other hand, if it is indeed a next generation stand-up coaster, it has potential to become the most popular ride in the park, with SeaWorld marketing the ride as the world's first launch stand-up coaster. And who knows, maybe it could be the ride that brings back the stand-up coaster into popularity. But on the flip side, I do think if the coaster is not well received, it could go down in history as B&M's failed attempt to revitalize an old coaster type. Now, whatever the coaster ends up being, I still think many enthusiasts are going to complain about the attraction regardless of whatever it is. They're going to complain in one way or another. But at this point, some people just complain about anything. Because this is B&M, I do think whatever they make is still going to be a solid, fun attraction, regardless of what many coaster enthusiasts say. But on a completely unrelated note, I predict that the color of this attraction is either going to be a baby blue or some type of blue. Because the coaster is supposed to mimic surfing in one way or another, that means that the track would have to represent the water, hence why I'm thinking of blue. Plus, a lot of the coasters at SeaWorld are around this bluish color, so I think that's a pretty fair guess. So to conclude, the B&M Surf Coaster is probably not going to be a disappointment. It's either going to be a decent launch coaster or an amazing next generation stand-up coaster. I know some people will be disappointed with this attraction, but I do think it will definitely surprise you. If it does indeed happen, I think the surf coaster will have lasting implications on the coaster industry, with B&M eventually entering the multi-launch coaster market. Or they could bring back the stand-up coaster for good. So I think it's important that we keep an eye out for whatever is happening with this project, whatever is happening with Project Penguin, because when we eventually ride it, I definitely think that it will not disappoint. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see content just like this all the time. And comment below your thoughts about the B&M Surf Coaster and just B&M in general. What do you think this project is going to be like, and are you excited for it? Also, let me know in the comments below which one of these you would rather have, a regular launch coaster or a next generation stand-up coaster that features a launch. This is the Coaster Josh, signing out.